In the heart of London, there was a family so dangerous, even the most feared gangsters stayed out of their way. No myths, no legends, just cold, hard reality. While the city slept, this syndicate built a £200 million empire through drugs, violence, and silence. Police couldn't touch them. Witnesses vanished. And their name? It still sends chills through the criminal underworld. This is the true story of the Addams family, the most feared crime family Britain has ever seen. Let's start the video. London's silent godfathers, the rise of the A-Team. While the rest of London was grooving through the 1980s punk scene or watching the royal weddings, three brothers from Islington Terry, Tommy and Patsy Addams, were quietly laying the foundations of what would become one of Britain's most feared criminal empires. Known as the Clerkenwell Crime Syndicate, or chillingly, the A-Team, this family-run organization operated with mafia-level precision. Terry, the eldest, was the calculated mastermind. Tommy, the middle brother, was the financier and launderer. Patsy, he was the muscle. Together, they created a criminal machine that rivaled the Italian mob in secrecy, power, and brutality. At its peak, the syndicate was believed to have a grip on over £200 million in assets, including luxury homes, art, offshore accounts, and more. And unlike your usual gangster showboaters, the Addams brothers were terrifying precisely because they didn't flaunt it. No flashy cars or gold chains, just cold efficiency. Terry Addams, the gentleman gangster, with a love for antiques. If you walked into Terry Addams's home in the early 2000s, you might have mistaken him for an art collector, not a crime lord. His walls were lined with antique paintings and priceless artifacts. But behind the facade was a man who had been pulling the strings of organized crime for decades. Terry was famous for keeping himself at arm's length from the actual criminal activities. He rarely used phones, communicated through couriers, and even avoided staying in the same place too long. Despite this paranoia, his downfall came when authorities raided his Hampstead home and found £59,000 in cash, £500,000 worth of antiques, and £40,000 in jewelry. A treasure chest for someone who claimed to be unemployed. In 2007, he was finally convicted of money laundering and sentenced to 7 years in prison. But Terry's talent for theatrics didn't stop. After release, he claimed he was broke, unable to pay the £750,000 owed under the Proceeds of Crime Act. For years, he fought the court, claiming financial hardship until, finally, in 2017, with jail once again looming, he paid the amount in full just days before his deadline. Coincidence? Or classic Addams strategy? Tommy Addams, the banker of the underworld. If Terry was the brain, Tommy was the bank. Smooth-talking, sharply dressed, and highly strategic, Tommy handled the syndicate's finances. He was allegedly the connection to international drug cartels, especially those in Colombia and Spain, and was key in laundering millions through front businesses and real estate. In 1998, the law caught up with him when he was convicted of orchestrating an £8 million hashish smuggling operation. He served 7 years but returned to the family operation, reportedly using international shell companies and offshore banking to keep the Addams fortune alive. Recent reports from 2024 suggest Tommy has since relocated much of his interests to Marbella, Spain, a known hotspot for organized crime. Though semi-retired, intelligence agencies believe he still holds key influence in drug importation rings across Europe. Patsy Addams, the man you don't want to owe money to. While Terry collected antiques and Tommy counted money, Patsy Addams was making sure no one stepped out of line. Known in North London as the family's enforcer, Patsy had a reputation for settling scores the old-fashioned way with guns, fists, or worse. His list of suspected crimes is extensive, including multiple gangland murders, shootings, and beatings. The most public incident came in 2016, when he was caught on CCTV, calmly walking up to a former associate, pulling out a gun, and shooting him in broad daylight. Patsy was sentenced to 9 years in prison for grievous bodily harm with intent. But here's the kicker. Even in prison, his name carries weight. Ex-inmates say Patsy still commands respect. Many refuse to speak his name aloud. That's the level of fear the Addams family commands, even today. How they operated crime, corruption, and control. So how did they build such a vast empire without constant media attention? easy: fear, loyalty, and meticulous planning. The A-team was structured like a corporate boardroom. Every brother had a role, and beneath them were lieutenants, enforcers, accountants, and street-level operatives. They avoided phones. Meetings were held in cars with engine noise to block surveillance mics. They rotated safe houses weekly and used code words and couriers to communicate. Even MI5, Britain's domestic intelligence agency, had trouble tracking them, and that says a lot. Their business interests included drug importation, primarily cocaine and cannabis, protection rackets, arms smuggling, and a massive real estate portfolio. It's even believed they were linked to the infamous Brinksmat gold heist, where £26 million worth of bullion vanished in 1983. International reach from London to Marbella and beyond. By the 2000s, the Adams Syndicate was no longer just a London problem. They had forged ties with Colombian drug cartels, IRA gunrunners, and Eastern European gangs. Their operations reached Spain, Ireland, the Netherlands, and South America. Tommy and several associates were said to be involved in moving massive quantities of narcotics across borders using a fleet of yachts, refrigerated trucks, and legitimate-looking logistics companies. Interpol reports and leaked Europol documents from 2024 confirm that remnants of the syndicate still operate in southern Spain, laundering money through nightclubs and holiday rental businesses. The decline law catches up, sort of. The 2010 S saw law enforcement closing in hard. Increased surveillance, sting operations, and internal betrayal led to multiple arrests. Terry was jailed, Tommy and Patsy too. But did this mark the end? Not really. Even with their patriarchs behind bars, law enforcement believes the syndicate merely decentralized. Like cutting off one head of a hydra, others popped up. Younger relatives and old loyalists are suspected to be continuing the operations. Less flashy, more careful. As of March 2025, the National Crime Agency still lists several figures associated with the Adams family as persons of interest. Ongoing investigations into money laundering in London and Marbella continue to lead back to the Clerkenwell Syndicate, the legacy a ghost that still haunts London. Ask any career criminal in the UK about the Adams family, and you'll see a flash of recognition and a flicker of fear. Their influence reshaped British organised crime, moving it from turf wars and pub fights to an international, covert, and brutally efficient empire. They weren't just criminals, they were visionaries of violence. They knew the streets, understood finance, and played the long game. Even now, in 2025, their legend endures not in tabloids or TikToks, but in hushed conversations, secret bank accounts, and the occasional unexplainable act of retribution. Final word: the real Adams family was way scarier. So next time you hear someone joke about the Adams family, remind them that London had its own version, and they were no joke. These weren't creepy and kooky, they were calculating and cold-blooded. And while most of them may be behind bars or retired in luxury villas, their shadow still stretches over the UK's underworld. So the next time someone brings up the Adams family, just remember, London's version didn't snap their fingers, they snapped necks. If this video gave you chills, hit like, subscribe, and tap the bell, because the Underworld has plenty more secrets, and we're just getting started.